Hey everyone, how's it going? So, the time has come, the end of the year for 2011. I'm going to be doing right now a little Game of the Year awards. Nothing really special, just me talking, but yeah, I hope you enjoy it. So anyway, yeah, let's talk about the top 10 best games of 2011 from my opinion. Please note that this may not agree with yours. I really don't care what you think. These are my picks, you know, and basically this is just what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I guess let's go ahead and start. I got my little notebook here connected up to the TV, and we will start. So number 10, once I get this on, there we go. Number 10 goes to Gears of War 3. Alright, so don't get mad, Zero. Alright, don't get mad. Gears of War 3, why is it number 10? Well, I thought the Gears 3 campaign was pretty decent. It was kind of different from the rest. This one was much more character driven this time around. You know, you saw a lot of good people die, and it was really about the struggle instead of the action, which I think was a great turn for the series. The reason it's number 10 is Gears of War 3 for me wasn't one of those games that really hit the top like it was hyped to. You know, people were overhyping this game like crazy, saying, oh, this is going to be the best third-person shooter on the market, it's going to be completely insane, and the game came out and everyone was like, oh yeah, it's good, at least it ends the series, right? But for me, Gears of War wasn't ever that type of game where I was just like, okay, this is something I have to play, this is something that's really great, something that's really addicting, and it's just amazing. Gears of War wasn't really that game for me. It was just a fun, you know, it was just one of those fun Xbox exclusive games, you know, the third-person shooter on the market, and I thought it had a great story. I thought the multiplayer was pretty good. It was a huge improvement over the last two games, I thought. Gears of War 1, never really enjoyed the multiplayer. Gears of War 2, never really enjoyed the multiplayer. With Gears of War 3, I thought the multiplayer was much more open to a broader audience. So, overall, Gears of War 3 made my top 10 at number 10, and yeah, so good game, just didn't really hit that mark. Moving on, we got Infamous 2 next. This may surprise a lot of you guys, as I know I've earned like, I think 250 of you guys were subscribers off of the Infamous 2 beta. Why is it number 9, alright? I know a lot of you guys expected it to be much higher. Infamous 2 was a good game. It was. However, it had some annoying parts, and I think it dragged out a little too much. The story this time around was much more based off of characters, which I enjoyed. It was much more character based. However, when I really thought the game fell short is when it made you collect and obtain the same powers that you did from the first game. Like, why should I have to learn how to throw grenades again? Why should I have to learn about doing rockets? You know, I mean, I think that should have all been given to you from the start. But I think what Sucker Punch did is they basically said, oh, geez, how are we supposed to, what more can we do with electricity? So, I mean, they struggled, right? There's not a lot you can do with electricity. They did pretty much everything in the first game, and they had to kind of mix it up, but I just didn't think that unlocking the same powers again was really worth it. I mean, why? You shouldn't have to unlock the same powers again. That's when I thought that was really stupid. The campaign was great, you know, and they had the UGC content, well, which is pretty cool, you know. I mean, I started my own series, Cole's Deception, but it didn't really end. I didn't end it, you know. So, but yeah, I just thought the campaign could have done better in my opinion. It kind of dragged out a little bit too long when they made you go ahead and, you know, unlock the same powers. That was annoying. So I mean, that's my only problem with the game. You know, I mean, otherwise it's very well made. Uh, I like the choice that you could either choose fire or ice powers towards the end. That was really cool, and then those expanded upon. But at the same time, I think Sucker Punch was just really having a hard time of what else they could do with electricity, and so they had to more or less, you know, kind of regurgitate that same pattern from the first game. So that's why it's number 9. Moving on, we have LA Noire next. Here's a game that I was really hyped for, really excited for it to come out because it was something very original and interesting. I like the whole 1940s, 1950s time era when it comes to video games. I like exploring that open world, and I like the music. I like that classic vibe. That's one of my favorite things about these types of video games is the culture. All right, and LA Noire basically set its goal was to be the primary open world crime / detective thriller game for the 1940s, and I think it did a very good job. However, it kind of fell short, and I thought that the game got really repetitive towards like the middle. You know, it had revolutionary technology. You know, with the facial animations, which definitely played a vital role into the gameplay, but at the same time, it's like the game really only had 3 major gameplay scenarios, and that was driving, shooting, and interrogation, and it didn't really have that much to grasp on. The interrogations were more or less the same. You just have 3 choices, you know. You have the choice to believe them, the choice to doubt what they're saying, and the choice to just blatantly tell them that you're lying, you know, and you have to kind of prove that in a sense. But I just thought it got a little bit repetitive. It wasn't, to put it this way, it wasn't the type of game that you could sit and play for more than 2 hours at a time and still feel, you know, still get that same fun factor as you were when you started playing, you know, that 2 hours ago, you know. It just kind of dragged on a little bit and got repetitive because it was a very, it was just a very strict structure in how you were playing, you know. It is open world, but at the same time, there's not really much to do in the open world. There's no movies to go to. There's no games to play like chess or bowling. There wasn't that kind of stuff that they had like in Grand Theft Auto 4 and Red Dead Redemption. That wasn't present here. So there wasn't really much to do but the story itself. And as far as side missions, all you had was basically these calls that came in from, you know, just these distress calls that came in from, you know, your police radio saying, oh, there's a shooting or there's a break-in at like the bank or something, and then you just drive halfway across the map and try to do those. But those get tedious because they're basically the same thing, you know. But I thought it was a good game. I just think it could have been better, and they could have added more on that. All right, and as we know, the studio who made this, Team Bondi, they closed their doors. They bankruptcy, you know, stuff like that. So they're gone. All right, they're gone. But this is a game that shouldn't be overlooked. I think it is a great experience and it is unique, and I think you should try it out if you want something different. All right, so that's why it's number 8. Moving on, Crysis II, number 7. Here's something that I think a lot of people will be surprised about too, because Crysis 2 I was really hyping. I was super excited for this game to come out. Like, I kept watching videos and videos, and still to this day, sometimes when I'm bored, I'll go watch like a Crysis video and stuff. It's a great, you know, type of game to go ahead and watch on YouTube. It's one of those, you know, very interesting games to watch. When it got to the full core game, I think it had an outstanding campaign for a first-person shooter. When you think about first-person shooters this year, you didn't really, I mean, we got some, but as far as campaigns, none of them really set the mark. And I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I think Crysis 2 is the best first-person shooter campaign this year, alright? It has an 8 to 10 hour campaign that's long. It's plenty of variety because you can play stealth. You can just, you know, go ahead and shoot people and stuff like that. And the powers and the way you choose your suits mechanics to work with your playstyle, it's really interesting. At the same time, I thought that while the game did have a fun multiplayer, and the game kind of lacked in the multiplayer section. All right, did I just say the game had a fun multiplayer? I meant the game had a fun campaign. If I said multiplayer, but the multiplayer for me didn't really quite set the mark as I hoped it would. When the beta came out, it was very cool. You know, I liked it, and I was more excited to actually play the game than to check out the multiplayer, because I was really hyping the campaign most of all. But the multiplayer, I was constantly faced with lag, all right, and balanced issues, right? There was lag getting into a match, lag when I'm shooting at a person. I'm like, yes, I'm shooting him in the head, he's not dying, and it just turned into like one of those those unbalanced multiplayers where people will just cloak around and run around the whole map all the time and just melee you from behind, you know, while you're not looking, and then you're just, you know, you're kind of left with the WTF face, you know. But Crysis II, you know, that was my main problem for it. And I posted this on the Crytek forums and stuff. I said, can you please release a patch? The multiplayer's laggy. You can't see people who are cloaked. It's like impossible to see them. But that's what you do. That's what happens when you give people power in multiplayer. They abuse that power. And I think that, you know, what's wrong with doing that? If they're given a tool in the multiplayer like the nanosuit, which can make them go cloak, which can give them better armor, they're going to use it as much as they can and to the best of their ability. And I just think that's the problem, is that a lot of people who wanted to jump into the multiplayer, and you know, a lot of new people who wanted that cool experience couldn't have been given that, because the multiplayer was just, you know, was very keen on keeping that very specific type of player and play style. So that was the problem, is the multiplayer with it. At the same time, like I said, I think this is the best first-person shooter campaign out there. It's extremely fun. There's variety because they're fighting humans, they're fighting aliens. You get to basically visit all these places, like, you know, New York, and well, all these places in New York, you know, and you get to see them under like Havoc and everything like that. So it's a great campaign. The multiplayer definitely, I think, could have been better. So that was my problem. Moving on. Forza Motorsport 4. Here's a game I was pleasantly surprised with. Now, Forza 3, I played Forza 3. Forza 3 was my favorite, was one of my favorite racing games of all time. And Forza 4 set that benchmark for like ever. You know, Forza 3, the first Forza game I played, I thought it was excellent. I thought it did a great job at creating a racing simulator that was addicting. And Forza 4 just pushed those limits higher. There's an outstanding amount of content that's on this disc. And, you know, even though it may not have as much cars as Gran Turismo or anything like that, or may not have the graphics of Gran Turismo, even though the graphics are outstanding, you know. But I think that it's very hard to make a racing simulator addicting for someone who, you know, whose the racing genre isn't particularly their favorite genre in gaming. It's hard to make a simulator racer fun, you know, to play like all the time. They make it really addicting, and they accomplished that here, I think, and that's what's really awesome. I couldn't stop playing the career mode of this. It was just so much fun. I mean, you just jump in here, you're racing against cars. There's this cool leveling up system where if you, let's say you're driving like a crappy car or something, like a Mitsubishi something, alright? I was driving this car, I can't remember it, but it was like a Mitsubishi, like this old Mitsubishi, right? And I'm driving this car, and I'm competing against Corvettes and like Ferraris. But since the game's like, okay, if you're not gonna buy any new cars, we're just gonna upgrade your car for you. There's like an automatic upgrade option that they give you at the beginning of each race that's a higher rank, right? And basically, if your car doesn't meet the criteria, then they'll upgrade that car for you so that it meets or exceeds the criteria that you must have. So I'm driving like a Mitsubishi, and I'm racing against Corvettes and Ferraris, and I'm winning. Alright, if you can believe it, I'm winning. My car is actually faster and better handling than those cars. And that was just, that's, you know, fun, because for someone who's not going to be like, okay, great, now I have to go back to the menu, now I have to buy a car and stuff like that. They can drive their favorite car and still enjoy the power and still enjoy the feeling of winning races. And that what was so fun about this game. I did not check out the multiplayer section because I've been just playing the career, but this is definitely, in my opinion, this is the best racing game you ever get your hands on, probably this generation, and in my opinion, this year as well, alright? So, if you have an Xbox and you don't have this, you need to run out and get it. It is very addicting. It's the best racing game, in my opinion, for this generation and this year, and definitely exceeds all expectations that I previously had and sets a new benchmark for the racing genre in general. So, great game, check it out. Number 5, Batman Arkham City. Alright, this game I was really excited for as well. Batman Arkham Asylum was really fun. It was a great experience and basically proved that Batman can have an awesome game and can be an awesome character to play with. With Batman Arkham City, they basically expanded upon that. They said, okay, let's give him some new moves, let's put some more characters in there, let's put all of his villains, and let's make it like an open world type of game. And they exceeded upon that. Arkham City, the reason why it's number 5, and this is a lot of people's opinions were, oh, this is Game of the Year, this is Game of the Year. The reason this is number 5 is because I think the game, just like Noire, got a little bit repetitive, because there isn't that much to do. Well, there isn't that much in terms of gameplay of how you're supposed to play. There's stealth, which is really nice, and then there's combat, alright? Stealth and combat is all you're going to be doing. You're just going to be hitting people all the time, and there's, just free roaming around the city if you want. But stealth and combat, pretty much the main 2 pillars here. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of got repetitive, and it kind of, I was playing this and I kind of, wanted to take a break a little bit. It didn't grasp me that much, but there's an excellent cast of characters in here, like excellent villains like the Penguin, the Joker, Mr. Freeze, who else? Reach, whatever his name is, the guy, and of course the main villain who we have is I can't remember his name. I'm trying to remember his name. What is it? I can't remember his name. That sucks. But anyway, basically everyone's in here, more or less. Basically everyone is in here. So it's a great game for, it's definitely a Batman fan's dream. This is definitely a Batman's fan's dream. So you're gonna want to pick that up anyway. But if you're just a regular gamer, just a hardcore gamer, this game appeals to that as well, and I think that's why it exceeded so much. It's a great game, great campaign. At the same time, once you beat it, which the campaign is about 15 hours, I would say, 15, 20 hours around there. It's pretty fun. Filled with twists and stuff like that, so definitely that. But there's challenge modes and stuff you can play with extra characters. Because I pre-ordered the game at Best Buy, I got Robin, which is an exclusive character, which they're going to have for download. I think they already have for download at the moment, but I got them early for buying it at Best Buy. And I haven't had the opportunity to go back into the game and to actually check out the challenge modes and stuff like that, but I want to. This is definitely a game that shouldn't be overlooked. Like I said, you should get it. It's a great experience. You're going to have a great campaign, great cast of characters, great voice acting. It's just an overall well-made game. So definitely something you should pick up. Alright, that's number 5. Number 4, Portal 2. Now, this is going to surprise a lot of people because previously this game was higher up on my list, and then I kind of thought to myself, I'm like, okay, the only reason this game's higher up on my list is because there's a lot of people who really love the game, and a lot of people who, everyone's like, oh, it's the game of the year and stuff like that. Portal 2 is an extremely well-made game, alright? It's excellent, I would say. This is definitely I'm trying to think of a word here. This is definitely a game that could win Game of the Year, and probably should, It's definitely one of those games that deserves the award. But for me, it is a puzzle game. You know, you have to understand it's a puzzle game. This is the hardest game I probably ever played. It's the hardest game. I don't think there's a difficulty setting on the game. You know, it's a puzzle game, but it's the hardest game I practically ever played. It's filled with the puzzles that the way you can finally solve the puzzles and everything. The answers to those ways to solve the puzzles, are so incredibly, depending on what puzzle you're playing, they're so incredibly difficult to figure out that they make you feel, there's a certain amount of excitement, a certain feeling of excitement when you do complete them. And you're really proud of yourself when you complete the puzzle. You're like, wow, I actually did that. I see it now. I mean, I remember this one puzzle I had to do where I'm trying to figure out, okay, I have my portal here, I can't find anywhere else to put my portal. I need to launch over there. There's all this trash in the way, and I finally was looking around and I saw this little corner, right? This little corner of a place I could put my portal on, and I shot my portal there, and boom, the portal just appeared. So I'm just like, wow, I would have never figured that out. And Valve finds these ways that to solve these puzzles that really require an open mind. You know, you can't think, okay, it's a video game, they're gonna constrict me to a box, I have to shoot a portal here, 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 here. You know, Valve basically says, you know, you can figure out the portal, you can figure out where to solve the puzzle in any form you like, you know, but you have to go into the game with an open mind. You can't think, okay, restricted ways to solve puzzles. You have to think open world. Anywhere I shoot a portal can be an option to solve a puzzle. That's what you have to think, alright? But it's a great game, great cast of characters, 10 to 12 hour campaign. That was incredible. You know, probably, this campaign's one of the best, you know. Good twist towards the end, really enjoyed that. And especially the credits. When they roll the credits and everything and you see that final scene, you can't help but smile, because it's just it's just that feeling of, I did this, okay? I solved that puzzle, I completed the game, you know, I survived without killing myself out of frustration, you know? It's just that certain level of excitement and completion that most games do not offer, let's say. So, Portal 2, an excellent, well-made game. Pretty good graphics for the Valve Source engine. You know, it's been in development for like a while. So, but yeah, great game, great gameplay, great story. It's just an overall great game, and I don't think you should be overlooking this. Like I said, don't think, oh, it's a puzzle game, I'll just leave it. This is the type of game that you really should want to play. All right. Yes, it's a puzzle game, but this is the type of game that's surprisingly entertaining and fun, like no other game can basically give you, right? There's a certain, like I said, there's a certain level of excitement and something that this game offers that basically no game offers, all right? When you beat this game, you're not going to feel like, oh, I beat the game. You're going to feel something completely different, and it's kind of hard to explain this to you, but if you beat the game, you'll understand. Next up, number 3, Deus Ex Human Revolution. Kind of expected this. I was really hyped up for this game. I think a lot of people are probably going to disagree with this being on the top 3, primarily because of people's play style. I think the game says you can play any way you want. You can shoot people. You can go through stealth. The game clearly states you can play anywhere you want, or any way you want, right? However, when you get down to it, this game really is supposed to be played as a stealth game. The level designs are all made so that stealth can be executed in a very proper and difficult fashion. All right, you can go ahead and shoot people if you want, but the game's increasingly hard. This game isn't the type of game where you're gonna be like, oh, it's easy, it's just a breeze. This game is difficult. Alright, it is extremely difficult. I was yelling at my TV a couple times because of how difficult it was. Enemies will see you if you so as well peek around the corner. They will, you know, follow you, and you know, well, at the same time, they have to kind of make it seem that okay, you know, this is a video game. It's not supposed to be overly challenging. So, I mean, you can lose them if you just run around and hide in a couple of doors. They're not going to get you. But the enemies are difficult as well. Don't think, okay, I'm augmented. I got all this armor on. They can't touch me. 3 shots and you're more or less dead, alright? You gotta really, really, really be cautious when playing this game, because you can be shot anywhere, enemies can see you anywhere, everything can be so screwed up. So like I said, the best stealth game I've ever played goes to Deus Ex, alright? Excellent. I think what's really appealing about this game is its environment. This game has a very incredible artistic design. It combines the Renaissance with that futuristic era. It's like the Blade Runner with Renaissance, and it works together so well. The game's graphics obviously are, you know, up for debate. A lot of people are going to say they're really not that good. A lot of people are going to say, oh yeah, they fit the game perfectly. The game's art direction is excellent. However, graphically, the game isn't quite there, unfortunately. I think more of it has to do with the character models, because in the cutscenes and in gameplay, the character models look horrible. And they look absolutely horrible, that's all I can say. So, but, like, I think what really surprised us most of all was when we saw that first trailer, you know, that first trailer, that 5-minute cinematic trailer, when they more or less announced the new title of the game, Human Revolution, right? And everyone was like, oh my gosh, this game looks amazing. If the cutscenes were the pre-rendered cutscenes like that in the trailer, then I think this game would have been incredible. But they just chose to have these plastic, you know, fake-looking cutscenes, you know? I mean, the cutscenes aren't really that well made. At the same time, they gave off that, you know, cool era, that cool, you know, feeling of, okay, I'm in this futuristic world, and that's was my favorite part about it. But I just thought the graphics could have been executed better. And I think that the developers said, first of all, that they wanted to go to many places. The developers said, yeah, we wanted to travel to different parts of the world, you know, Europe and stuff like that, but due to the more or less constriction, because they didn't want to make the game a 2-disc game, they said, I think that was the problem, but they said they had to cut some parts out, but that always leaves it open for DLC. And speaking of DLC, this game's first DLC, The Missing Link, is an outstanding DLC. A 4 to 5 hour campaign DLC for $15. So think about this. $15 will get you a 5-hour story DLC that fills in plot holes within the game, the actual storyline. Or $15 can get you 5 maps for fun and multiplayer for about 2 hours. Think about it. I mean, so my favorite part, obviously the art direction. I love the futuristic, open kind of world that they had. Definitely a great game, great artistic design, great story too, with a great cast of characters. This is something that's definitely worth it. And like I said, the best stealth game I've ever played. If you're a person who loves stealth games and loves that, you know, loves just being stealthy around all your games, you know, like me, because I'm not the type of person who likes basically shooting, you know. I'm not the type of person who goes in there guns blazing, you know. I like to do stealth, observe my environment, and kind of, you know, stalk my prey, if you will. So definitely pick this up if you're a huge stealth game fan or just looking for something entirely different. There's like 40 hours of content, 35 to 40 hours of content on this disc, so it's definitely worth your money. Alright, moving on. Number 2, Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception. Obviously, you know, I think a lot of you guys are surprised. Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception, in my opinion, an outstanding campaign. I think the campaign was as good as Among Thieves. A lot of people are saying that Among Thieves was better. I think that the developers, Naughty Dog, I think that they had trouble creating a campaign like Uncharted 2, because Uncharted 2 really, to be honest, set the benchmark for most games out there. And they kind of hit the benchmark here, but at the same time, you could tell that with this game, they kind of wanted to go back to the roots. They kind of wanted to make it a little bit original, but still give off that, you know, new look. So I mean, this story this time around is much different. It's about Nate and Sully's relationship and how that started. And at the same time, it